Yo, what's good, my Ghost Mafia? It is your host, Mr. Ghost. I am back with another podcast for you guys. This podcast will dive deeper into the transgender movement and why its foundation has been flawed from the get go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. If you are new to the channel, you want to join the Ghost Mafia, hit that subscribe button. Turn on your bell notifications to all notifications so you're always alerted when I go live. Upload great content for you guys. Guys, I have to tell you, it's been a busy week for me. It's been super busy. I cannot wait to get into this one. I've done so much reading on this. And the further I dig into this, guys, you're just going to be shocked. Stay throughout the entire podcast because it's going to shake some cores. And viewer discretion is advised because this will get pretty darn nasty very quickly, especially with how the entire foundation behind John Money and his research, exactly why transgenderism is a false. It's a false. It's false. I don't know what else to say besides it's false. I believe it's something that should have never happened. I believe it is something that is demonic, but that's my personal opinion on that one. But guys, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the foundation of transgender, sexual identity, gender identity is what it's really called. Gender identity was founded by a guy named John, I believe. Bear with me. His name is John Money. I hate when my brain gets like that. It gets like congested, and I got my notes here, so do bear with me. I want to make sure I'm factual as possible with you guys. But John Money was a psychologist that studied sexology, and he had this whole entire like idea that sex was not biological, it was more sociable, it was more innate, you know what I'm saying? So pretty much gender didn't have nothing to do with your genetics, it just had a lot to do with how you feel. And he pretty much is the founding father of this movement. He was part of John Hopkins University, their gender clinic over there that was doing the very first gender reassignment surgeries on infants and babies and children. And this is going all the way back to like I believe it was the 40s, the 50s, right around that area. I believe it was in the 50s when the first transgender surgery took place. But he didn't come notable or anything near to what they are until 1966 with Raymer, born Bruce Raymer. Yeah, if you guys never heard of his story, it's a very tragic story. David's own family blames John Money for the death of both of their kids, the two twins. They were born in 1965, I believe, or 1966. I believe 66. But at 22 months old, the kids were sent in for a circumcision, and to get circumcised. And unfortunately, Bruce, the one that turned into David, he was Bruce, Brenda, David. Uh, During the circumcision, he ended up having his penis chopped off. Very unfortunate. It was a bad mistake. It was a botched procedure, and the parents were distraught by this, and I think I would have been too. I think any parent would have been. Obviously your kid got mutilated, it wasn't on purpose, but still scary. And they were looking for answers of how to raise this kid without the proper genitalia, and they did they looked around, and John Money saw an opportunity. you know then he was able to convince the family do to pretty much put him on hormones, to switch his identity to female. I believe he never got to from what I read, they never got to the gender reassignment surgery because the parents refused. But they were convinced enough to put their kid, this infant, on all these different medications to make their child wear dresses, go by the name of Brenda, convince other people to pretty much called their child Brenda when in reality Brenda was never Brenda. Even growing up, David even said that he felt like he was a boy. He was ridiculed, picked on, bullied, harassed, you name it, he went through it. But throughout the years that they were interacting with John Money, now remind you, you know what I'm saying, this movement is based upon this guy, you know what I'm saying, his research. He didn't research a group of people, guys. He didn't research, group A, group B, and study the after effects of transgender, the reassignment surgeries. He never did any studies of what the effects are psychologically on these patients, and he only had one patient, and that was your boy David. And he ended up, putting David and his brother Brian through hell. He essayed the kids numerous times throughout their life. I believe the youngest, they were around 6 at the time when he first forced them to perform certain acts, and when they didn't comply, he was very viciously mean to them, screaming at them, treating them like complete crap. But when he was around the parents, he was this Mr. I'm a doctor, I know what I'm doing, and care about me. And this guy has a history of hurting people, prior to this, and it's like, prior to this, he had somebody misdiagnosed, and they spent years in the mental ward getting electrotherapy, a whole bunch of torture to happen to that person. So understand, John Money's foundation is already muddy as it is. It's already filled with so much evil, so much hate. So, but science itself threw its book out the door. Religion kind of threw its book out the door and said, you know what, you are correct. Gender is just a feeling. And obviously, it didn't get too far mainstream until modern time because of social media and stuff, but he is the founding principle of it. And during a lot of his studies, he pretty much published books upon books of how successful this was, but never talked about the ridicule, the bullying, the harassment that this young kid went through. How much depression, how much anxiety this kid went through. Instead of studying the real issue when it comes to confusion through the adolescent years and stuff like that, obviously this is more of a modern thing, but he fundamentally destroyed a family. And along the way, he set up a foundation for a society that was going to collapse from within. So when you sit there and you talk about the sexual reassignment of David Reimer and how much abuse this guy went through, put as this, his brother ended up taking his life. Brian, the one that didn't have no gender issue, he ended up taking his life at 36 years old. And a few years later, his brother David, one that was victimized and one that was pretty much transitioned by force, and taking his life. So at the end of the day, John Money's legacy is based upon a lie, a flawed study. And not only was it based upon a flawed study, I'll let David use his own words. Many people remember he used David as the foundation of the success story. Let David use his own words. You heard it from David himself, There is no success story there. It was a flawed study. Not only was it a flawed study, I think when you look further into what he was doing, it was sinister. It was for his own gratification. This is a guy that believed that if a 10 or 12-year-old boy was in love with a 20 or 30-year-old male and it was a mutual love relationship, that's okay. Yes, those are his own words, guys. Those are his own words from his own studies. This is the guy that supports pedophilia. This is a guy that supports, the destruction of families, the destruction of, gender identity. Now, it makes you question what is behind this motive. Was it to establish a foundation to normalize children and adult relationships? Most likely. But as I said, his study, this renowned study that he did, that the science community backed up, John Hopkins backed it up, everybody was applauding it as some kind of hero, but in reality, it was a flawed study based upon essayed two kids, with two kids end up growing up into adulthood and taking their life way too young and leaving a family completely decimated. So this is what the foundation of this movement you're seeing today as. This is where it's rooted in. And they can't escape from that. And you're seeing it more now than what it was back then. You're seeing this significant push into gender reassignment for adolescents, children, and it's wrong. It's beyond wrong. You don't sit there and play with nature. God made us a boy. He made us a boy for a reason. It's for our own good. Same thing, if God made you a girl, he made you a girl for your own good. So you need to accept that. And most will, it's proven that most will outgrow this dysphoria and this issue by 18. And when they do reach age 18, if there's still some kind of issue going on, they usually will identify as part of the LGBTQ community. So they will identify as being gay, which is okay, because obviously that's their choice. And yes, in my book, it's morally wrong, but I'm not going to judge them, live your life, have fun. I'm not going to judge you. It's just, then some don't. Some just grow up into adulthood and never have to deal with that identity issue ever again. How many people 8 years ago that went through the beginning of this, that did the transition, that had all this procedure done, are now turning back around saying, yo, I'm wrong. But it's too late. The mutilation's done. Your body's destroyed. And there's no going back. There's nothing you can do to change the hand of time. And it's because many are led down a false path. Psychiatric doctors and doctors alone are leading people down the wrong path. And that's where parents have to educate themselves into children's psychology, into the development of children. And it's okay for children to have issues. Not every boy is going to want to play with boy toys. Not every girl is going to want to play with girl toys. It's okay to be a boy with little flair to you. I mean, I get like it every now and then. You guys watch my lives. I have a very funny feminine side to me, and it's my personality. Now, do I think I'm gay? Do I think I'm a woman? No, I don't, because I know that's my personality. I've always been this way and always will be. And I've accepted my identity. I went through this with one of my own kids. At 9 years old, came to me, hey, I think I'm a boy. Now, did I immediately run out and grab hormones and call doctors for surgeries? No. Because I'm a responsible parent. I'm a smart parent. And I sat down with my kid and I explained to my kid basic biology. And I explained to my kid, it's okay to have certain feelings of liking what boys like. So if you like rock and roll music and you like headbanging music, that's okay. That's okay. That's your personality. God made you as an individual. You're an individual. And here we are years later. My kid is still a girl, and my kid's pretty happy with her identity. If you leave it alone long enough, it will figure itself out. Obviously, do pay attention to the mental health aspect of it. Make sure that depression, anxiety, and that stuff is not eating away at them. And if it is, you get them the right kind of help. But when it comes to this identity crisis, I might be a girl, I might be a boy, and you feed into it, you are abusing your kid. You are neglecting your child, because there's a bigger fundamental issue that's causing that. And most of it's natural. It's part of growing up, being confused of who we are. Okay? Hold on. So, understand the foundation of this is rooted in evil. There is no real study. There's no real study. Scientists didn't come together and study genetics. Scientists didn't come together and study this the right way. So the entire foundation that this is built on was never built to last. In 1997, a lot of the truths came out of what he did to the boys. But yet we're okay with modern times to support this ideology, even though it's based and rooted in evilness. And like mental health is a big factor behind this. And a lot of people that are within their 20s and 30s and 40s, 50s, and on, so like Bruce Jenner and all them, they have this crisis because they didn't address issues within childhood. So, and that's their choice. If an adult makes that decision, that's different. They have to live with the consequences because now you're an adult. You should know right from wrong. But children should be protected. Children should be loved. And for people like John Money to build a foundation of a false ideology based upon it is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous foundation. You know, when you go further into his relationship with these boys, he did what's called sexual rehearsal play. How is that okay? Oh, it's in the name of science. No, it's called pedophilia. You're a sick son of a bitch, and you're living out a sick sexual fetish. Okay? And as I said, when David came forward, in 97, he came out and talked about his story. It definitely shook the foundation that this was built on. But when he died, I believe it was 2004 is when it was 2004, he ended up taking his life by shooting himself, unfortunately. But his own parents came out and said that this entire mythology used by money was the reason why their kids went mentally ill and completely ended their lives at a very young age. And obviously, 6 years later, that was kind of forgotten about. And we've seen a significant change over the past 13 years, this huge push. How many schools are holding secret meetings to help children transition? I think the last time we have ever seen stuff like this take place in a country was during World War II. It still happens in other countries. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but in mass quantity, in public acknowledgement of the treatments. Listen, the United States has a dark history when it comes to mental health. Yeah, mental health. They have a dark history with it. This is just another one of those experiments that hopefully will be brought to light and squashed, and we can get to the real root of mental health and fix it. And it brought up a lot of debates within pedophilia. It brought a lot of debates into, is this the right choice to be made? I mean, you look at the people who are now detransitioning, people that has transitioned into their different gender to fit whatever narrative they were fed by lies. Because as children, we're always acceptable. We're easily molded. We're easily convinced because we're children. We don't know better. We look up to adults, as leaders of the community, and we were always taught from a young age, the adult knows better. You listen to the adult. The adult knows what they're talking about. So as a child, an adult tells you, hey, you might be a girl. You might start questioning yourself. And when this is indoctrinated into the children's mindset, you create a domino effect, a Pandora's box per se, and you're going to open that Pandora's box, and it's going to cause a significant ripple effect, and that ripple effect is going to have significant and life-altering effects on society as a whole. Okay, let David's own words be a reality check for a lot of people, the Dylan Mulvaney's, the Lisa Thomases of the world, these people that truly think it's funny to pretty much push the narrative of the far left agenda to destroy our society. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse, and it's not going to get better until people speak out against it. And I know for us that do speak out against it, people call us bigots. They call us racist. They call us all sorts of names in the book. And at the end of the day, you can call me whatever name you want. I'm just a realist. Boys would be boys, girls would be girls. Boys could never be girls, and girls could never be boys. And that's just a fundamental fact. It's based and rooted in not in just biblical terminology, but within scientific realm of things. You know, within the scientific world, our genetics makes us who we are. And in the Bible, he clearly states, we are made in the image of God. He made male and female in the image of him. He made male, male for his own good, and female, female for her own good. And we must have entrustment in his plan. And another thing that leads this on is the lack of foundation of religious beliefs. Fundamentally, truth, religion, beliefs. And be acceptive of who we are, guys. We are of who we are. You know, money has, as I said earlier, he's had his opinion on pedophilia and the chronophilia and and all that. He basically stated, let me read this quote for quote. He stated that both sexual researchers and the public did not make a distinction between affection pedophilia and sadistic pedophilia. Pedophilia is pedophilia. I don't know why he's pushing out two different types. There's only one. So he basically told the Dutch Journal of Pedophilia, if I see a case of a boy, as I said earlier, and this is his own words right here, guys, take a look. I'll put it right on the screen for you guys. If I see the case of a boy, aged 10 and 12, who is intensely attracted towards a man in his 20s and 30s, if the relationship is totally mutual and bonded and genuinely totally mutual, it should not be called pathological in any way. Money has held his view on the affection of pedophilia is caused by a surplus of parental love that becomes erotic and behavioral disorder. And not behavioral disorder. So yeah, that's sadistic. So understand those who support this, that's what it's rooted in. That's what it's rooted in. And that's all I have for now, guys. Into our next podcast, stay compassionate, stay loving. And hey, listen. We must stand united against the evil in this society that's trying to hurt our children. Until our next podcast, guys, stay compassionate. God bless you guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.